When you meet someone, they're not showing you the very difficult side of them. So you develop what's called core beliefs around who you think they are. And in the beginning, they're amazing, and they always are. If you're gonna get someone who's in domestic violence situation to sway from their core belief that they are a good person, good luck with that. I had met someone that was very similar to myself. I had a real openness to any sort of triggers that he would have or any difficulties that he would struggle with. I like to say that I was forgiving to a fault. We did everything together, went here together, did that together, working together at one point, and then you live in the same home. Your phones are on the same account. We had intertwined hard. I didn't know that I could go from like striving and being driven to having no job, no money, no career. At my lowest, I didn't want to get out of bed. I would wake up in the morning and just be really depressed. To be so far removed from who I was that I needed to go work somewhere that doesn't lend to my talents and my gifts. That's how cognitively reduced I was. In that relationship, really early on, I started writing poetry. I was able to walk on the trail whenever I had a difficult day, and then by the time I got to the end of the trail, I was able to just email it to myself. I always like to say that leaving is not an event, that it's a process. We split up pretty regularly. We would leave and then get back together. Leave and then get back together. It was just, it's enough to make your head spin. And then knowing that it wasn't good for me and then doing it anyway. At one point I had to recognize that. And when I recognized that, I was able to do a pattern interrupt, to be able to start to do something differently, to know that I was lying to myself and believing myself. I remember asking our accountant where things were at. I really wanted us to both have a nice, solid foundation in which we could both move forward in a really healthy, loving way, and that we could still sort of maintain a friendship. And our accountant told me she couldn't talk to me, that I was not her client. My name was on nothing except for tax breaks with my status card. The wrath of that was not okay when he found out that I called the accountant, our accountant. Yeah, that was a huge thing. I knew that I was gonna have to sort of pick up the pieces of my life all over the place. When you're at the foot of that mountain and you're looking up at it, it's enough to make you just turn around and go back. It was a lot of background planning and a lot of background work, and knowing that while I was still in it, that I was creating an exit. Money is a big thing that'll string you along, and they'll use that. It's a power. It was just control. Here's what I'm gonna offer. Oh, you're mad at me today? I'm gonna take that back. At one point, I was taking $20 out of the groceries and putting it in a skirt in the back of my closet. Truthfully, that's what I was doing. I'm like, I just need to save up for first and last, and he can't know about it because they know everything. I do videography work. That's kind of where I went, and I leaned towards that and was picking up clients and doing that. I just kept kicking and scratching and getting these clients and working towards the jobs that I wanted. And I did get like a really great gig. And when I got that, he had offered money and radio silence. I didn't even respond. Ooh, that was a really good day. That was I still feel good about that. Inner peace became critical for me. I cared about nothing but inner peace. That was at the top of the pyramid. That's what I needed. And I mean, that's how tumultuous things got. Like my head was such a mess. I ended up really shifting my focus from him to myself. asking questions about him to asking questions of myself, and that's the key. As I was evolving, so was my poetry as well, because whatever is within is what's coming out. And when I started to sort of become empowered and learning to live from the inside out, the writing shifted again to what I call empowerment and enlightenment. I was living in like just an apartment, and I really wanted a home. My brother did buy this home, and then my mother moved in, and she's like the matriarch of the whole, the glue, people like to say, so we would always gather where she was. My brother's girlfriend ended up getting very ill, and he had to move out to go take care of her in her house. And so we were all heartbroken that the hub where we have all these memories was just sort of sitting there. What if I restored it, put some new life into it? You know, instead of paying rent, I could pay the housing loan to refurbish this house. And so after it sat for 2 years, I did end up taking on the task. And so I really ripped out those old carpets and put new flooring in, and wherever there was that 1970s paneling, I ripped it down, and so we put up drywall. At one point, I took down paneling, and there was paneling behind the paneling, if you can believe that. Let's just say you could stand at one end and look at the other end as if it were a rib cage. That's basically what we did. I didn't even plan to go that far, but once we got our hands into it, we really went crazy. I could not be happier. It's just filled with love, and it just encompasses my every single day now, and I love it. I wrote a lot of poetry during that really difficult time, but I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't even reread it. I just thought, oh, that's not bad. I'm gonna send it to myself. I had a file folder at the side called writing, so anything that I emailed to myself just went straight into that folder, and I didn't look at it. I opened that file folder and I started to read that poetry, and the ones in the beginning were really sad. They were so sad, and they took me right back to a time and a place that was really difficult for me. And then I scrolled further, and then I was like, oh, this is where I really started to become trauma-informed. This is where I started to understand it. This is where I started to hold a mirror up to myself. And so the writing had shifted. And then I scrolled further, and I seen that one called My DNA, and it's about thanking the ancestors for their strength and their resilience, that they didn't just sort of pass along intergenerational trauma, but that they also passed along an absolute incredible resilience and strength and beauty and all of that. When I was done, I was in tears. I legitimately just witnessed my own becoming. And then, of course, I have these loudmouth inner guides, and they were like, you should share that poetry. It's really gonna be powerful for other people. I'm never alone. Woven within are the whispers of my indigenous ancestors. I'm the present-day sum stemming from a long line of lovemaking. Their kaleidoscope of courage braided through my bones, my body a time capsule of victimhood and victories. They are etched. It's not about the book. It's not about people knowing who I am. It's not even about my story. It's really about how do you take your story and turn it into the greater good. This is such a devastating issue that really doesn't care if you're in the hood or middle class or if you're rich. This is a human condition, and it really comes from our childhood experiences and our upbringing. It's not like one thing happens and you leave. You learn to care about these people, and then when emotions get involved, and we're emotionally driven beings, you don't just say, hasta la vista, I'm done. You know, you don't do that. I hope that helps some people out there, because I didn't know either. I was just like, why did I do this? I don't understand. When I started to talk, it didn't hold power anymore, and that took a while. I really want to be able to work towards shifting the collective consciousness around the way that we view domestic violence. If you're thinking you would just up and leave, if anyone in earshot ever heard you say that and they're dealing with it, what you just did is cause them to step further into the shadows. How do you think they're going to feel? They're going to carry shame. They're going to close up, because shame requires darkness to live. That's not what we want. We don't owe that to our future faces and our young ones moving forward. We want them to live in the light.